Everyone, it's 7 o'clock and I'd like to call together the May 18th, 2023 school committee meeting. If you would join me in rising in for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. We've got 3 members present tonight. Jen Gold will be on her way shortly, and Dino is absent this evening, but we have a quorum. So this evening we have a consent agenda posted, as well as we have the minutes from our May 11th, 2023 meeting and oath of bills and payroll. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Motion made by Stacy.
I second.
Seconded by Elaine. Thanks very much. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, unanimous. Great. This is our first opportunity for interested citizens. So if there's anybody before us this evening that would like to speak before the school committee, either in the room or at home, now's your first chance. It'll be a second chance at the end of the meeting. Okay. Close that portion of the meeting. Good evening, Jen.
Sorry about that.
No problem. All right, we'll move on to our recognition portion of the evening. I'd like to pause here and recognize our student representative, John Feltus. Job well done this year. I don't know exactly how the saying goes, but it's something like 90% of the work is just showing up. And you were always present at every single one of our meetings. Not only did you just come and give the student representative report, which we all enjoyed throughout the course of the year, but you stuck around for all the meetings, which you greatly appreciate. When appropriate, you chimed in on the conversation. We tackled a couple difficult topics this year. So at times you were a voice for the student body, and perhaps potentially you were a voice from the school committee back to the student body. At times, saw you at a couple town hall or town meetings this year as well, one in which you were part of an organization that led a warrant. So I was just very impressed with your involvement this year. So congratulations. We definitely recognize you as someone that's going places in life, and we can't thank you enough for your efforts. So we have a token of appreciation for you. Roll back. You can open it now, or you can open it after your report. Yes. So now you're up. So John will give us the student representative report, please.
All right, well, as said, I'm John Feltus. I'm the student representative for Littleton Schools, and I have some updates here. At the Shaker Lane, over the past 2 weeks, it's been great to see the Springfest student winners claim their prizes from our staff. Ms. Kane would like to thank Shaker Lane staff for their time in creating those memories for the students. And as the last 6 months of school come upon us, there are several end-of-year activities that take place. Mrs. Kane would highly recommend families read the weekly newsletter to stay up to date on these activities. I know those are a lot of work to make, so I also highly recommend that. At the Russell Street, these students have been working hard to finish their MCAS tests. The last day is tomorrow, and the second session for 5th grade science. Makeups will take place next week, and the Russell Street students and staff look forward to a Memorial Day presentation hosted by the 5th grade team, as well as an art show, field day, and end-of-year field trips planned throughout mid-June. At the middle school students completed their math MCAS this week, and only the 8th grade has their civics MCAS left remaining. So thank you to the families for all their support. And at the high school, the day was the financial literacy fair, which was a big success. And then tomorrow the seniors have CPR training. The seniors also have the senior parade on the 25th and senior send-off on the 25th, starting at 6 p.m. And on the 30th, the seniors have the Boston Harbor Cruise, and on the 31st, the seniors have athletic awards at the high school at 6. A lot of senior stuff, but going on.
That's really good.
Yeah, busy.
Great. Thanks very much. Question for John. Everybody good? Dr. Clenchy, any additional recognition or things to say?
I have a few.
Sure.
I'm going to piggyback on John with the financial literacy fair today. I'd like to thank Mrs. Abates and all the volunteers who came out today to make the occasion a great success. We've heard lots of positive comments from students and staff, and it's an event that really tests life skills. And it's a good test to have before you end up in a position where you have credit cards and payments to make, and very little experience doing so. So we're hoping as we continue with this program every year that we will continue to build upon what we do each previous year. And our students will go away with a good understanding of how to manage money, how to identify costs that are affordable with the amount of money that you have, et cetera. I think that's a huge skill that needs to be taught within public schools. So thanks to the high school for putting an emphasis on that. We've been talking about it for a few years, and this is the first year that we've been able to actualize it. So thank you for that. I'm also pleased to report that we've implemented a new online registration for new students and current students in our district. It's tied into our current software program, Aspen. And you've heard me talk before about how important it is to have that information on students in case we need to access parents quickly. So for current students and families, when you go in this fall to see your child's schedule or who the teacher is, you're going to have a prompt to look at the information that you submitted the previous year and update any information. Press confirm, and then you'll get into the real information that you're looking for, so to speak. So we're hoping it's going to help us immensely in making sure we have that time. So very pleased we're able to do that this year. One more acknowledgement, Dr. Arnold, who is our high school PACE teacher, not a stranger to Littleton. He taught at Littleton High School a number of years ago, and he's come back again. And we're pleased to have him. He's created a partnership with Active Toyota, and it's a pre-vocational internship for our PACE students. So it's nice to have community partnerships, and this will be a real worthwhile experience for our PACE students. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing. All right, we will move on to our presentation portion of the evening. We've got two presentations on the agenda. The first of which is State of the Curriculum Report. I'm going to read this as it's printed in the agenda, and then however, whatever order you folks wish to present will be fine. So 6 to 12 Science Curriculum Coordinator Valerie Finnery will provide an update. The Science Curriculum 6 to 12 ELA Curriculum Coordinator Dave Pascucci will provide an update of the ELA Curriculum and Elementary Curriculum Advisor Rachel Duarte, Ann Brzezinski, Susan Mitchell, and Nicole Patterson will provide an update of the elementary curriculum. So we can take it in whatever order you're prepared. If you would just introduce yourself and give us the topic ahead of time, so we're prepared. I'm sure the slide next order. Take it away. Sure.
So good evening. My name is Valerie Finnery, and I'm the 6 to 12 Science Curriculum Coordinator. This year we got to review our current curriculum through the lens of the 2016 Science, Technology, and Engineering Standards. One theme that we've carried through all the years and into our curriculum review is that we focus on active learning. So I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about our curriculum review. We put a lot of time into this. We used almost all of our department meeting time. We used 6 3-hour early release days, and an uncountable amount of extra time for each of us to review our curriculum materials and to complete some of the tasks we had to do. What did we do? We started with writing a new vision statement for the 6 to 12 Science, Technology, and Engineering department. We referred to the state standards, used the district and school goals, examined the vision statements of other schools, and discussed our must-haves. And then using our vision statement, we set our priorities for reviewing our current prospective curricula. So, it's not really, there it is. So we completed surveys on our current curricula and asked our students to complete similar surveys. In addition to asking about the content, surveys asked us to examine our curricula for equitable representation of diverse peoples and cultures. Based on our surveys, we proposed several new courses at the high school and started looking for new curricula using state and national standards as well as our surveys. We requested and evaluated samples from multiple publishers. So this slide shows some of our new curricula that we've chosen. Since I made the slides last week, the middle school 6 to 8 science classes have selected McGraw-Hill iScience. The honors physics class has selected a Savas College Physics, a strategic approach. And the AP physics class has selected another Savas, which is a publisher, Physics for Scientists and Engineers, a strategic approach with modern physics. An interesting note to add is we've added an honors organic chemistry course for next year. This course is a really important addition to our offerings, and it's the first advanced chemistry class to be offered in at least 13 years. We have advanced physics and advanced biology courses. Mike Gillen, the chemistry teacher, said that organic chemistry is a very common requirement for majors in a variety of the sciences, medicine and nursing, chemical and bioengineering, etc. But also it's a significant barrier course where many students struggle. Littleton students will now have the opportunity to go into that experience well prepared, and he's very excited to get started. So we have been very grateful for the opportunity to update our curriculum, and we're really looking forward to integrating all the new ideas and activities. So along with our curriculum review, we also taught students. In these slides, I wanted to focus on one of the processes that is an integral part of teaching, learning, and doing science and engineering, and that's modeling. In science, we create models to allow us to represent systems, to see how they work together, to test hypotheses, and to explain and communicate. So these models are from Littleton Middle School. In the top left, in 7th grade, students modeled the phases of the moon using photo P to make a GIF. In the middle, 8th graders used CAD to design a deck. On the top right, 6th graders used Makey to create an interactive cell model. On the bottom right, 8th graders designed and built model homes of the future, designed to mitigate the effects of climate change. And then on the bottom left, 7th graders used Scratch to design a multi-layered game. Here's a peek into some more science at the middle school. So on the top left, a 6th grader with his cell model, a 7th grader's hurricane house. So it's to the right of the cell model. Excuse me. Students researched, designed, built, and tested a house that was supposed to withstand 140-mile-per-hour winds, and then they tested them with a leaf blower. In the middle, there's another cell model using Minecraft this time. And in the right side, 6th graders looked at evolution by examining index fossils. And bottom right is a trilobite. In the middle, there's a kind of a classic photo of students using microscopes. We use those in a lot of our courses. And then on the bottom left, the pandas, and then the top right, the hands with the tree. Those are 8th grade student projects on the effects of human activities on the environment. And then on the bottom left, 7th graders took on the role of carbon atoms to model how carbon moves the biosphere and the carbon cycle. So onto the high school. Here's some modeling at the high school level. On the top left, this was one of my anatomy classes. At the beginning of the school year, their vision of the body systems. So we're going to try to do that again, like the seniors have left. So yeah, and see how those that vision has changed. That looks a little bit incomplete. In the top, middle, and right, this is modeling in physics. So they use Vernier video analysis to convert the motion of a ball bouncing to a graph. Let's see. Oops, it didn't work. So there it goes. No. There it goes. And so the graph on the right is from that. On the bottom right, these are earth science students that are creating a scale model of the solar system. In the bottom middle, in a physics class, students designed and printed 3D rocket cones, and tomorrow they're launching their rockets. And then the bottom left, again from my anatomy class, we regularly use Play-Doh to model anatomical systems, organs, tissues, cells, and cell processes. All right, more from the high school. So for my anatomy class again, we dissected muscles, tendons, and ligaments of a chicken wing in anatomy class. The middle, Mr. Gillen tells me that is the emission spectrum of bismuth. And on the right, we have a student in a forensics class who was looking at the pretend stomach contents of a grizzly bear to report to fictitious game wardens whether or not it had human hair in its stomach. And then the bottom left picture, these are Petri dishes from AP Biology where they transform bacteria with a fluorescent gene from a jellyfish. Going on, this year we had 13 students from the middle school who were involved with the science and engineering fair. So I wanted to recognize each of them. Sixth grader Ryan Simpson, his project was what is the effect of mint products on the temperature of water? Eighth graders Hazel Willis and Cecilia Janae, hair looking like Shrek, chlorine had an effect. Eighth graders Emma Lou and Suma Viravasa, physics underwater. Eighth graders Angel Patel and Samhita Gowda studied the effects of different fonts on memory. Eighth graders Eva Hume, Lily Tez, and Ritika Singh, you did great. Does confidence play a role in test performance? Eighth grader Caitlin Stimson, how does sugar content in water affect the rate at which an ice cube melts? And then seventh grader Pranav Sharma and his brother eighth grader Pranshu Sharma, biodegradable plate. So 6 of these projects are actually competing in the State Science and Engineering Fair this Saturday. And then finally, for the very first time, Littleton High School had 2 students attend the Massachusetts Science and Engineering Fair. Both attended the high school state science fair and engineering fair on May 5th, a week ago. On the left, sophomore Isabel McCurdy's project was called The Effect of Manuka Honey on the Growth of K-12 Escherichia coli. And then freshman Anika Jacob studied the effect of, I'm going to translate that, caffeine on the growth and development of Tenebrio molitor, which are mealworms. Anika received a 3rd place award in the Massachusetts Chemistry and Technology Alliance Award. And I'm really looking forward to next year. I have a number of students who are planning to do projects next year. Thank you. Are there any questions?
So, thank you, Valerie.
I don't have a question, more a comment, and this might actually be applicable to many of you in the room, in terms of curriculum. I love the cross-disciplinary aspect of a lot of these projects. So, for example, the Faces of the Moon project, I think that maybe some of the students used maybe technology and even art skills to kind of build out those models. And I've been hearing from a number of my kids and students that I know that there are cross-disciplinary projects that they do, which I just think is really smart. And I love that. And I think that, I'm thrilled that that's happening. And I would encourage more of that because it's neat to think about how you can use art and technology to make science and math visualizations and even combine it with social studies and history. I don't know, those are great skills to learn throughout life. So, but all of this is really impressive. And I'm also thrilled to see so many girls really participating and excelling in STEM projects and these science fairs. It's really impressive.
Good. Elaine?
Oh, well, you certainly are doing active learning. That is so impressive just across all the grade span. I'm really pleased for you for the adoption of all of those programs. I know that was a really heavy lift with so many different courses that you were trying to find curriculum for. The other thing I'm super impressed with is the number of science courses that you're able to sustain in a Littleton High School. That's a lot of electives for a school that size. So that's really a credit to your program.
We have a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's due to your enthusiasm as well. I noticed on one of your slides that as part of your planning for the adoption, one of the priorities was to align with the vision for a Littleton High School graduate. Could you say a little bit more about that?
So the vision of a high school graduate.
Yeah.
So that is in the high school documents. Yeah, thank you, John.
Elaborate. That's more sort of a question probably better addressed by me because it has to do with our reaccreditation process. So we survey community members, different stakeholders, whether it's certain parents, students, staff around what goes into a vision of a graduate. We had, as a result of COVID, we had our reaccreditation process that culminates through visitation postponed several times. So we're up to 2026. So we'll begin in earnest in the fall of this upcoming school year. So Valerie is just making mention that because I'm probably encouraged to tie what we're doing, whether it's at school council meetings or secondary curriculum council meetings, tie what each department is doing into our vision of graduate that is going to be revised and developed. You could, any member of the community could look and see that we have the values, we have beliefs in school, different beliefs in learning, we have civic and academic and social expectations based on our previous reaccreditation The standards for recreation have all been revised, and now we need to update that beginning in earnest in the fall 23, and ultimately culminating in 26.
Well, it's great the way it provides some alignment for all of the curricular areas too.
And we also thought about what do our students who want to major in STEM need as they go towards college, and to make sure that courses that will help them to succeed are available, and that so we're updating. And also the vision of a graduate include being able to communicate and being accepting of others, and being able to use those interdisciplinary skills. So
Very impressive. And I just wanted to congratulate you for the, for bringing your students to MSAP. That's really exciting.
Very
Back when my son had you in middle school, you remember that, but you had the science fair in the middle school.
Mhm.
So have you moved that initiative to these, the regional and state fair, or are you still doing
Well,
it?
so I'm at the high school now.
Right,
And so I brought it to the high school, and the last year was my first year, so I had one student in my club. And this year I have about, depending on how many come on a given day, anywhere between 10 and 20. So we were able to pull together 2 projects, and now we all know what we're doing, and so we're going to start right in the fall, and I should have quite a few more projects ready to go to the regional fair at the high school level. It's,
so you support them with at an after-school club?
yeah, it's during flex and it's after school when we do the project.
That's great for
It's
athletes.
part of my passion too, and I just really want to have a place for those kids who want to do that. And they were very excited to go to the state fair and to just be there and experience being part of this community of students who are passionate about STEM. And they met a lot of judges who are in the STEM fields, and it was a really good experience all around.
Thank you for all you're
next year.
doing. That's really impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, just 2 quick comments, I don't have any questions, but one thing I wanted to comment on is I really appreciate you got the student input on what your curriculum. Getting their input, I think, is really important for understanding kind of what they want, what the future of their curriculum is going to be. So I really appreciate that you were involved in that process. And then just to piggyback on Elaine, the variety of courses that you guys have is really impressive. As someone with a medical background, having anatomy and honors chemistry would have given me such a leg up getting into college. So just having those courses available for the kids gives them a leg up for when they're going to college, but also gives them a little experience with those to see if that's something they really want to, the path they really want to go down. So I appreciate your work. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Great job. Dave, you're next. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Dave Pascucci. I'm presenting for the English department, grades 6 through 12, and thank you for allowing me to be here to represent my department. Back to the first slide. Thank you. On the first slide, just wanted to show you a couple of pictures of students collaborating as part of a recent MCAS in the Middle initiative at LMS. And I will talk a little bit more about that with slide 4.
Do you want to continue?
No, you're perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
I won't be in, I'll turn and take
Okay.
next slide. Thank you so much. So here's a slide with a few highlights and accomplishments. So there was a few LAF grants. I wanted to highlight one for the department, which happened very recently. And with the help of a grant from the LEF, Beth Richards, a university professor and author, presented to Mr. Tom Bino's creative writing class via a Zoom or Google Classroom. So they talked about personal essay writing, also the experiences that students might come to expect their first year in college. Also some comments about, they talked about courses that might be interesting. And that it was obviously geared towards students who are interested in writing, but obviously there was conversation about just college in general. So that was recent, and I know students really enjoyed that. So that was a very sort of exciting, informative sort of segue to college, which seniors are getting excited to be going to. So the next bullet point says Littleton ELA students grades 6, 8, and 10 took the MCAS recently. I know there's other tests at the high school. The math MCAS just took place this week, but looking at recent scores, even though there's been a measurable effect from COVID, obviously there's been some struggles that I don't have to mention because it's obvious that COVID's had an impact on student learning. Our students are still progressing, and for those grades 6, 8, and 10, compared to the state, students are still doing better on every single question. So it doesn't mean there isn't room for improvement, but overall students perform quite well. And then some 8th grade students, Sadie Roberts and Gabe Kustianis, entered the Young Writers Writing Contest, and both are going to be published in this year's Journal of Exceptional Student Work. Besides, in-class writing, there's other avenues for students to write. For example, LEA Express and other writing contests for poetry, nonfiction, and fiction. So lots of opportunities to write in and outside of the classroom. Thank you. Yes, appreciate that. Next, I want to talk about professional development. Briefly, some of the professional development that our department was involved in. Recently, we discussed articles about the theory and thought process behind grading, lots of different articles. We focused recently on an article called Making High School Grades Meaningful. And we talked about that across departments and within our own department. Also in line with district and state goal plans, we worked on collaborative projects across departments, which Valerie highlighted for lots of reasons, but I think students are often engaged when there's a cross-curricular activities going on, and they can see how knowledge builds. And then finally, UDL, as part of our focus on universal design for learning as a district, ELA teachers attended evidence-based professional development on multi-tiered support systems, evidence-based tiered interventions, evidence-based literacy models, and effective leadership practices. And to sort of address that to like a practical setting for some students, more variety of project options that are going to be open up to many students. So student choice, student options when it comes to assessment. So we focus sometimes on the upper level thought processes, but we think about practical applications. That's okay. As I mentioned before, the middle school had a Magnificence in the Middle initiative that thank you, that I just wanted to highlight again, because sometimes MCAS can be quite stressful. So this was an initiative that was trying to create some positivity around that MCAS experience. So there's a creation of a positive all school messaging campaign, show what you know. So it's a school-wide student council sponsored poster contest, and you can see a couple of posters. Our department presented to staff about communicating and having a growth and positive mindset. There's also focus on executive functioning skills, time management, organization, and just a couple of the Proctor observed outcomes are listed here. Proctor observed that students work so hard that the required testing window had to be extended by 30 minutes. Another comment was more students than ever before created and used their own graphic organizers to plan out their writing. And so that's really important because often the best writing doesn't start, like it's a race. So sometimes taking time to think, plan, that's such an important part of writing, no matter what age. So next slide, please. And this is a picture of some illuminated texts or manuscripts. These are just a few examples from a junior-senior honors class taught by Dr. Backman. Students created this based around some excerpts. So there's some poetry excerpts by famous authors. So it's just a sample of some of the great work that our students, teachers, and staff create every day. thank you for your time.
Good job. Questions, Stacy?
I think I just have a question out of curiosity. I think you guys are doing great, but my question was kind of how you guys are navigating through the whole like ChatGPT and technological stuff
Sure.
with the students, because I think that kind of really made a lot of headway this year
Yeah.
and probably a very big shift for you guys. So just curious how you guys are handling that.
Yeah, I mean, even within just this past school year, that was something I really hadn't heard of at all. And then, I heard a little bit, and now we're, reading articles about it and talking about strategies. So, I mean, we've definitely come to the conclusion that this is a reality, right? This isn't something that is going to disappear. So sort of dealing with that. Some of my colleagues have been very interested in it. And some of my colleagues, especially at the high school, have been thinking about how do we, use this as a tool, right? Rather than saying, no, just stay away. It's plagiarism or something like that. The answer is much more complex. So I think, trying to stop it and control it is going to be very difficult. So integrating it and using it as part of your lesson. I know we've had conversations in SCC about colleagues using it to brainstorm and start a lesson plan. So like, how do we use it? But I think it's important to know that we're all at different stages and comfort levels with it. So I have practiced using it very little, but I know everyone's sort of experimenting with it. But I think we do have to be aware that we don't want students to use it to blatantly cut corners. And, there is the cheating and plagiarism aspect of that we have to be aware of too. So it's a tricky balance. And I think everyone has a different learning curve and with it. So I think it's something that has come up in conversations, and it's definitely going to be something we're going to continue talking about. And perhaps there'll be some more like professional development around it, because there's a lot to be learned. So I know some people are going to be thinking about how to handle that this summer. It's going to be something I'm like, hey, I'm gonna learn more about this.
Yeah, it happens so fast. It's hard to evolve as fast as teachers in comparison to the access to the kids that they have access to it to be able to use it. So I think using it as a tool is absolutely great. But we want to make sure the kids at the end of the day write their own content. So yeah, I'm sure you guys will be able to figure that out, and then be an evolution for sure. But
Yeah, I'm glad you're testing the waters, because I wonder too if it could be a good tool for a student with writer's block to just get a draft started, and then they have to work with it from there to revise it and improve it and put life into it.
Right.
I think the documents that are created by ChatGPT tend to be characteristically flat with little voice or creativity. So a trained eye like yours could suss it out and realize, if it was from ChatGPT. So it's like, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Right.
So I'm glad that you're coming up with creative ways to deal with it. And kudos to you for getting your students to create their own graphic organizers on MCAS. I know that's a perennial challenge to, they practice with graphic organizers and then all of a sudden they're on their own. So anything you can do to get them to plan before they write, that's
that
a
was
success.
something some of my colleagues were really excited about,
Yeah.
that they saw in real time, that they were that was a major difference from just a year ago. So
Yeah.
they're excited about that.
But I also wanted to congratulate you for your work on UDL, on the Universal Design for Learning. That's such a great tool to differentiate the instruction for students, but it's also a lot of work. So because all the lessons that you create through UDL have to have lots of different options for students, and it takes a lot of time and effort to embed those options into a lesson plan. So I was curious if you had department time to collaborate with your colleagues to lighten the load.
Yeah, I think, and we've had some professional development. It seems like the message is basically start small, start with a lesson, because it does take a lot of time to sort of front load that. But if it's done well and you have, a project or a choice board or what have you that you could use for years afterwards, sometimes you get those dividends later. And I think seeing what other teachers are doing is very important. And, one thing I know all the departments have enjoyed, but the working with other districts Because some schools, like they have the UDL guru, they have the ChatGPT guru. So working with other districts for professional development has been helpful as well, because some people are further along than others. And you know, taking some of their ideas and sharing some of ours, that's the best.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. Jen, do you have any comments?
No, it was great. Thank you.
Thanks. Dave, one thing that caught my eye, just I was curious about was like the Cliff Notes version of this professional development slide.
Yes.
Making high school grades meaningful, this what we know about grading, what's working, what doesn't, what's next. Like, can you just expand upon that a little bit?
Sure. Well, we talked about a few articles and then we kind of honed in on this. Some other articles we're talking about, like, you know, why give a student a 0? What's a 0? So like with this, making grades meaningful, as an English teacher, I think it's really important. I think we can spend so much time writing comments and, you know, making sure that like that translates to something that the students understand. So making grades meaningful is sort of the fact that the student can kind of connect what skill that they need to improve on or where they really succeeded well. So I think a lot of that comes down with like conferencing after grading a paper with a student, right? Because I think sometimes grades can be quite abstract, no matter what is being graded. But I think with writing, sometimes it's kind of abstract. So sort of, you know, everyone knows rubrics and things like that. But I think a big part of that is sort of just sitting down with the student when you have time. Again, it can't be for every assessment, but making sure that the students understand what constitutes an A, what constitutes as grade and why you did really well in this focus area. And then I think with just making grades meaningful, I think also a little bit about the vision of a graduating student at the Littleton High School the vision of a graduate. The idea that there's some consistency, right? So, you know, even though it's not copy and paste what's going on in my classroom with another classroom, there are some benchmarks that are universal and that can be clearly compared. So I think that's kind of important. So we've talked about that, where there are some benchmarks that are the same, regardless of who the teacher might be. So I think that's like an important thing we've talked about. So that consistency. So an A in, you know, one class is similar to an A in another class.
Gotcha. So if I'm hearing you, it sounds like there's an initiative for feedback on an assessment as opposed to just purely scoring an assessment so that one can improve upon the results that they may have achieved. Good. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Next up, we've got the elementary curriculum update 2023. Patterson, Mitchell, Duarte, and Brzezinski.
Well, so I just wanted to share Nicole Patterson was supposed to be here and she put a lot of time and effort into these slides, but she just suddenly started not feeling well. So we're going to do our best to take care of her slides the best that we can. We'll start with social studies, which would have been her first slide. So social studies at both Shaker Lane and Russell Street is a springboard for collaboration and for building critical thinking skills, hands-on experiences as much as we can, project-based learning, big part of our social studies curriculum. At Shaker Lane in grades K-2, students study citizenship, communities, and math skills through hands-on learning. You can see in this first example, this is actually Ian's class. It's a first grade unit, US Civil unit. Maybe do you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, I'll just share a little bit. So the photograph here is really 3 classes of students, the 2 photographs under the Shaker Lane portion. And we are showing students how big the Statue of Liberty is. So when they see it, you know, in a picture, in a book, it doesn't look that big, right? But of course, we all know it's actually 300 feet tall. So when we take a portion of it, like the nose, and we say, okay, this is so many feet big or whatever, what do you think, what body part do you think this might be? And so they all thought like the legs or the arms or whatever. And then we say, nope, it's just the nose. And they're
like amazed. And then at the end, we do like 150 feet. It actually spread across all 3 classes, all the way down the driveway there. It's 150 feet. And then that's just toe to torch. The stand that it stands on is actually another 150 feet. So it's 300 feet, 300 feet tall, which they can't really conceive of that, but we showed them with string. So we stretched the string, between the teachers, and you can kind of see us doing that in the hallway inside as well. So it was, they're just, wow, this is such a like special day because we really get to see, all the things we've learned about the statue kind of come to life. So
Looks like so much fun. And then at Russell Street in grades 3 through 5, students study our state's history, regions of the US, and American history and government. We also try to keep things very hands-on and engaging. Battlefield Day is a big day that 5th graders look forward to. Another example is mapping in the think tank. And there's a focus on reading and writing about social studies, project-based learning, and group problem solving. And kids tend to really like social studies because it's so hands-on and they can kind of relate to it that way. So then moving on to science at the K-5 level. So science in general, your goal is for kids at this level to try to really get to know and understand the world around them, what everything means, and to have an appreciation for just all the fun that's involved in science. We try to make it engaging and relevant. We try to have thoughtful, hands-on, minds-on activities that just keep them interested in what we're teaching. Then it allows them to kind of develop a growth mindset when it comes to science, and just for them to want to really learn more and just keep diving deeper. So also it's important to start young because kids at the younger ages are always just naturally interested in learning and curious. So at the pre-K level, they focus on the world around me. In kindergarten and transitional materials, in motion, animals 2 by 2, and trees and weather. In 1st grade, living, non-living plants and animals, light and sound. In grade 2, pebbles, sand and silt, solids and liquids, insects and plants. And then at grades 3 through 5, in 3rd grade, structures of life, motion and matter, water and climate. In grade 4, states of matter, energy, soil, rocks, and landforms. And in grade 5, earth and sun, mixtures and solutions, water cycle, and living systems. You can see in the pictures some examples of the hands-on activities with the crayfish. And in 5th grade, they just have their butterflies, which those things all keep the kids engaged. And just this week, 5th graders just took their very first science MCAS, and it seemed to go well. Feedback was pretty much they thought it was kind of fun after doing 2 days of math on Monday and Tuesday and science. And I hope it's fun because science was fun or because they know tomorrow's the last day, their second session of science, and then they'll be done because it's done a lot of testing this week. But they're doing well with it, kind of holding their own. So moving on to math at Shaker Lane.
So it's been a very exciting year in math for the K-5 as we've just adopted the new HMH into math curriculum. So this is our first year with the curriculum. And so this slide kind of highlights the general concepts covered into math across the grades K-2. And as you can see by the general concepts, what's great is how each grade level actually builds on the previous year's skills. So there's definitely a ladder for students to climb. As with any new program, there's been a little bit of a learning curve this year as teachers and students are adjusting to the new routines and the new materials. I can say that teachers have been plowing through the multitude of resources that come with this program, both technologically and paper, and trying to find ways how to best adapt the lessons and deliver the content in ways that best suit the students in front of them, each classroom. This flexibility is built right into the program, so it's been kind of nice. Each Into Math lesson has a specific routine and offers students opportunities to problem solve using tools and manipulatives. There's a turn and talk where they talk to each other and explain their math thinking, which is really exciting. And you can kind of see in some of the pictures up there, students using the manipulatives and talking with each other. Each lesson also includes a plan for differentiated small group instruction. So students who are almost there, students who are right on target, and those who are ready for more can be appropriately challenged at the teacher table with small group instruction. I have a couple of pictures up there as well. The program also offers interactive online lessons, which until now we've basically had to adapt into Google Slides. But our awesome tech department just recently delivered LifeTouch touchscreen TVs to all of the classrooms. So I think we're really going to be able to leverage those interactive lessons. I've already started. It's been a game changer, and I think it's really going to get us more excited about the program next year, because there's lots and lots of online interactive opportunities. And I do just want to give a shout out to Julie Lord and Noah Hickman, because they just stayed late and they made sure every classroom was set up and ready to go. And then in the morning, Julie offered us a quick tutorial on how to just hit the ground running that day. So they're awesome, and thank you. We're very excited about them. One of the challenges with the program in the K-2 is that it's a word problem based program. So there's a lot of reading involved, which can be a little bit challenging at the K-2. But as I said, there's a lot of adaptive resources, and we're still discovering ways that we can best deliver the curriculum to our students. We have noticed that, as students' reading proficiency and our familiarity with the program over the course of this year, our first year in the program, we're already seeing, some greater gains as students get to be better readers. But with that said, each student has a Waggle account, which is the technology piece of the program, and they can use that. They use that for assessment, and there's a read to me feature. So that's been very invaluable to us. So students can independently take the assessment with their headphones. We also have paper option too. If we were finding the beginning of the year, kids were just sort of like tapping buttons. And so we said, well, maybe we should give it to them on paper. So we have that flexibility, which is nice, but there's so much great data that we get from the program that having them actually do it on the iPad is great, as long as they're actually, figuring out the math and not just hitting buttons. Another really important piece of technology is that all students still had access to their Dreambox accounts this year, which is a platform they're very familiar with. So that was very helpful to us during the transition as well. And teachers had the flexibility to either assign Waggle or Dreambox in their technology centers. So we were very, very happy with that we still had those Dreambox accounts. So basically, the teachers are looking forward to hitting the ground running next year. Now that everyone's had a year under their belt with the program, students will come in with a familiarity with the routines and the materials and the online platform and those touchscreen TVs. We're so excited to get to use those with our students moving forward. So with that said, we'll move on to Russell Street map. Oops, outside. That's weird.
Oh, there we go. Also just to echo what Ann said, so I was one of the lucky ones to have a touch view TV like for the past year. And I will say it's like life changing when you're teaching this math program, to have the kids be able to see the work right up on this big screen. They want to come up, they want to try to solve the problems. And the Into Math program for almost every lesson starts with a Spark Your Learning that is really like accessible by all learners, because like it just asks this random question and there's no right or wrong. What are you thinking? And you give the kids a few minutes to kind of brainstorm on their own. And again, with the touch screen, they can't wait to come up and just show their own work and model it and use the different colors. So I feel like it's so great that everybody has those TVs right now, because if they're going to see it going into next year, what a difference it makes when teaching these lessons. But just to go back to the Spark Your Learning and with this math program, it's been so good at like being helping kids build their confidence in math, because everybody can be successful when trying to answer those questions, and it starts the lesson off on a positive note, because I mean, it's not just a K-2 issue at Russell Street as well. It's heavy with the language, and it has been a challenge for us too, especially at the beginning of the year. And we've kind of figured out ways to help the kids get used to it. And it's been really fun. And the math intervention is there, so I've gotten to see all the different grades. It's been fun to watch the growth through the year, to watch the level of confidence increase as these kids took their math MCAS. This past week, it wasn't like that. I mean, because the questions are very similar to the questions on the assessments in this program. So even though it was a little bit tricky, because anything new is a little challenging at the beginning, but then once you get used to it, it starts to get easier and you think back to, oh, wow, remember when, but look at us now. So I'm super excited for next year. One, just because we'll be able to, have all this experience behind us, but also to see, as the kids move up in grade levels, when they've learned all this new information in a way that really will stick with them, how it's going to affect, the next year. Because we have never really taught long division at Russell Street in the time I've been there. We've introduced it in 4th grade this year, not where we expect them to master it, but then they can build on it next year because proficiency is what the expectation is for 6th grade. So it's been fun to see 4th graders attempting, and some of them totally get it. Some of them don't want anything to do with it, and they know that it's not expected right then and there. So I really like how this program has allowed kids to really access things in different ways and kind of find what works for them, but exposes them to a variety of strategies. We also appreciated the fact that we still had Dreambox that was familiar while we introduced Waggle. And it's we also have improved our test taking skills because the tests have been a little bit challenging. So we kind of got around that by there's a form A and a form B. So we would use one of those forms as a little bit of a practice review. So they get used to the questions and the format. And again, as the year has gone on, because they were a little bit nervous at the beginning, but now it's just, okay, we're just doing it. And it's been great to see the growth. So it's been, that's been a fun part of this new program. And you can kind of see, it's probably just the different things. It builds for each year, fractions at each grade level, and we just dive deeper with all the different concepts.
Hey, good to hear from me again. So this is the ELA K-5. And in reading this year, we continue to focus on the primary components of reading, that being letters and phonics, speaking and listening, and reading passages and stories. So letters and phonics is written communication, and our primary curriculum for that is foundations. And in K-3, it's more of a K-3 program. Students are introduced to the alphabetic principle in kindergarten, and it's reinforced through foundations in our daily drill sound warm-ups, all the way to K-3. Students are explicitly taught letter formation in kindergarten, and it's explicitly reviewed in 1st grade at the beginning of the year. And then students in K-3 practice phonetic spelling through tapping and blending on their fingers. And students in grades 4 and 5 use a phonics-based spelling program that builds on foundations. So it takes us all the way to K-5. And then in speaking and listening, this involves spoken communication. And Heggerty is a newer program for us. Foundations is newer as well, last, I think 3 years, 3 to 4 years. We've had foundations, and Heggerty, we're in year 2 at Shaker Lane. So it's an early primary phonemic awareness curriculum. So it's really just being used in K-1. And it dovetails so nicely with foundations at both schools. The Heggerty curriculum consists of daily whole group instruction on phonemic awareness skills, things like recognizing onset and rhyme, or isolating initial sounds, middle sounds, ending sounds, segmenting, adding and deleting sounds. All of this is auditory, and this auditory practice aims to strengthen students' encoding and decoding skills, which ultimately make them better spellers, better readers. And in the reading section, K-4 uses Journeys currently as our primary reading curriculum, and all grade levels are pretty much supplementing Journeys to some degree. We're not using the entire curriculum, where grade 5 is using the Engage New York reading curriculum. And that curriculum models direct instruction. It models scaffolded practices for reading comprehension and reading response. And again, that's just what 5th grade is using. What we kind of like at the K-2 anyway is that many of the Journeys themes offer cross-curricular opportunities with social studies and science. And also grades 3 to 5 do literature studies to develop those critical thinking skills and to get more exposure to the different genres. Reading instruction across the K-5 is tier 1 in the classroom. And teachers also utilize small group instruction to work on various foundational skills at the various levels in the classroom. Tier 2 instruction is more for the at-risk students in the K-5, and for the most part, it's done in small groups outside the classroom with our reading specialists, and it has progress monitoring built into it. I do want to also, I have to give shout outs because teachers could not do any of what we do without like our reading specialists who at both schools who work tirelessly to bring that tier 2 intervention to our students, and it's helping them make great gains in reading. And a final note, I wanted to mention that there is currently a reading curriculum review committee. We've got some new pieces, like I mentioned, the foundations and the Hegarty that are really, really strong. And our committee is going to be looking at, the reading review committee will be looking at what other reading programs are out there. We're going to assess our current reading program and see kind of where the gaps are and try to see how we can improve on what we have. So the bulk of the work of this committee will be done next year. I don't know how to do that, so there we go. Oh, yeah, okay.
This was on a Nicole slide, if you couldn't tell. ELA writing and units of study.
I can just do it. I do this every day. So in the units of study, there are 3 pieces: narrative, informational, and persuasive opinion writing, which all of the grade levels K-5 do. And then we have some grade specific topics like introduction to the writer's workshop at the kindergarten level, realistic fiction, which is what we're involved in right now in 1st grade, poetry in 2nd grade, I think fairy tales in 3rd grade, literature, essays in 4th grade, and memoirs in 5th grade. So we each have grade specific topics, but we work within the other pieces. Everyone's doing narrative, small moments writings, which is really fantastic. I know at K-2 because kids you can write about brushing your teeth, or you can write about, getting ready for the bus, a small moment in time, like a little tiny seed, not the big watermelon, your whole vacation. Nope, just one day, or even one 10-minute period. I threw up their weekend news, which is something that we do at Shaker Lane. It's more with foundations, but it's I put it in there because it overlaps so nicely with the writing. It's guaranteed writing every week, and kids again get to practice that small moments. What happened over your weekend, and kind of write that out. And then informational writing is they get to become the experts, how to accomplish writing, and then bringing history to life. Those are all of the topics at the various grade levels. And then persuasive opinion writing. We do collections like Best in Show. We write reviews on restaurants, toys, movies, places. We do a separate section on book reviews, and then persuasive letters. So lots going on with units of study. This again is a newer program for us. I think we're in our third year of this curriculum. And so teachers are getting more and more proficient with it. Students are really taking to it. So kind of where we are with writing.
Hi, I'm Rachel Duarte from Shaker Lane. I'm a kindergarten teacher, and I'm here to update you on the social emotional K-5. At Shaker Lane, we focus on showing heart. H stands for honesty, E stands for effort, A stands for acceptance, R is for respect, and T is for take responsibility. We encourage our students to show the heart every day. In morning announcements, we say show heart, make good choices. So we start our day fresh. At the beginning of the year, teachers participated in a team building activity where we were to create a school vision statement. And that became, we are building a safe, caring, and ready to learn community. One of our teachers created a banner. So it's hung in the cafeteria so everyone can see it, and it reminds everyone about our school vision. We followed the second step curriculum. It's an anti-bullying curriculum focused on advocacy. Michelle Kane and Rebecca Deacon have offered diverse read alouds where teachers can sign up to have either one of them read stories of inclusion, different backgrounds, and just overall diverse read alouds.
And we have school-wide community meetings to bring our preschool to second grade, including everyone into the school for lots of fun activities. At Russell Street, they have the Strike program, which is similar to HART, but a little more up the ante. So safety, take responsibility, respect, integrity, perseverance, and empathy. They also follow the second step curriculum program. And they also do responsive classroom, that includes open circle, creating a safe space for students to be able to talk about their feelings and show empathy. There is the classroom book a day, where the librarian created a library of 180 picture books for teachers to be able to take out a book once per day, including diverse read alouds, to bring back to the classroom. And finally, they're beneath the stairs in the foyer, they have a chill zone, which is a shared space that students can go to relax or if they need to take a break. And I will say that many teachers offer a cool down break area inside of the classroom for any student who just needs a minute to themselves to collect themselves and come back to class ready to learn. I'm also here to talk about STEM. In kindergarten, we did a really fun activity that included ELA and science, where you can't really see it, but we have a wind tunnel and it's facing down, and there's this big bad wolf. And we were talking about the 3 little pigs and what makes a stable building for the little pig to be protected from the big bad wolf. So we tried it with paper and we tried it with wood. And we talked about what were the reasons why each structure had different outcomes. And who was the winner in that? It was a very interesting experiment that we did. In transitional, we have Osbox inside of it's called Schcmte Imagitorium. It's our room that we do a lot of our activities. And Osbot is a coding robot where you can code it to do different things with different colors. They created a story where they used Legos to create the setting with buildings, and they have a little Osbot and they can decorate it to make their own character. And they had to move their character around the buildings and create a story based on the coding that they did with their markers. In first grade, they did a mapping activity where they designed the community with laser cut buildings made of balsa wood. So I think it's called a glow forge. I'm not really sure what the laser cutter is called, but they can design using a marker, and they're able to create whatever they want. So they were able to create a building, and we created a display area of a community. So a post office and a fire station and all sorts of different things. And I see Heidi is on there. Heidi is our STEM integration specialist from K-5. She has created lots of great lessons, and she is also a really great resource for teachers. If you have an idea, she's there to help you. She's like, let's do this. I'll be there to help you in a minute. So really great shout out for her. In second grade, they had cardboard community day. They were able to take cardboard boxes and they had plastic rivets and screws and created different buildings. And they showcased them on the hardtop, and they also had like post offices, a flower shop, a vet, and set them up in their community. And kindergarten, first grade, we all got to walk around the community, which was really fun to do. And then coming soon is laser cut geometry windows. I looked into the lesson. I don't know if I can explain it great, but I believe it's they're going to create different shapes in a window and project light and see how shapes change in the manipulation of light and shadows.
So at Russell Street, we have the think tank that the kids love going to, no matter what the activity is. In third grade, they look at the life cycle of a seed through stop motion animation, so that connected to their science curriculum, making music, which connected to the music curriculum. So we have a couple of videos we can show, and I think so. Oh, is there sound?
No, it's just that motion.
Oh, okay. So, and then down here, the cardboard instrument. Those
You don't know how to do this.
That one might be cut sound, that's okay. Yeah.
The cardboard instrument.
There we go, right.
It's love to code.
I know.
Oh, there.
And then in fourth grade, they did choose your own adventure, coding stories, connecting to ELA, explorers with root robots, their social studies connection, and then 3D printed bubble wands, which are super popular. The kids get really creative with what they make their bubble wand look like, and this time of year is when they've been doing it. So it's been a lot of fun to go outside to use them. And in fifth grade, novel engineering, then functional 3D printing, coding, interactive math word problems, yay. And Go Bananas Unruly Splats, which actually was featured in the Roll Sun. So yeah, the kids really love going there. Like Heidi does such amazing things with them. We affectionately call her the STEM queen because it's one of those things where you could spend, well, I could spend half an hour, I'll probably figure it out, but I can go see Heidi and she'll tell me in 2 seconds, do this, and it's like all that. So she's pretty awesome. We're lucky to have her, and that she does all these creative things with the kids. And that is about it for the presentation. So if anybody has any questions for us.
Then you want to start?
Oh, well, I am overwhelmed and happy. This is just reminding me of why I went into teaching. Your enthusiasm, all of the great ideas, the ways you engage students. And it just reminds me when the moment I decided to become an elementary teacher was at when my oldest son was in 3rd grade at Russell Street. And I went to a curriculum night. It was very much like this, like hearing all of the amazing things going on in all of the different content areas. And it just inspired me that this is a place I wanted to be. And you're giving me that feeling all over again, just your, I love the way that you continue to push yourselves. You know, you're not staying with what's comfortable and what you know. It just seems like you're in a continual process of improving and trying out new things. And this math curriculum sounds amazing. Like it just checks off all the boxes. You've got opportunities for student discourse, which is so important. The differentiation sounds like it's laid out for you so that you can meet the needs of all the students. I love that you're using Dreambox, so you get that data on where the students are to be adaptive. So kudos to all of you. And one other thing I wanted to mention, I love that you created a new school vision all together as a community at Shaker Lane, because art has been around for a very long time. And I think, I mean, it's great, but getting the community together to rethink that and make it fresh and take new ownership of it is so powerful. So, and I just wanted to, I know last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, but I want you all to know, including the 2 teachers that had to leave, but we do appreciate you. We see you and know that teaching is rewarding, but it's also exhausting. And because you put your heart and soul into it, and so it's emotionally draining too. So we're very grateful for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
Got anything?
I mean, again, I would echo that. A very, very impressive curriculum. And again, just to echo what I said earlier, that cross-disciplinary, you mentioned it a couple of times, combining the STEM with the technology or the ELA. It's important to use those skills later in life too, to realize how everything is interconnected. So I love that you're inspiring these kids to be really naturally curious and creative. It's wonderful. And you know, build bubble wands. And I mean, it's just fun on so many levels. That's science and technology, but it's also math and it's also fun. So great job.
Dave?
Sure. Everything they just said, you guys are doing great. I'm a 1st grader. She loves it. I wish I could go to Russell Street or Shaker Lane. It would be great. But I did want to take advantage of having all 3 of you guys here. We don't often have all 3 of you here. And I want to talk a little bit about transitional, because this past year we've talked a lot about kind of where our Littleton School District is going, where the town's going, growth and budget strains and staff strains and space strain. And restrictions that we may see in the future. And we've talked a little bit about transitional with nothing to put into effect, but how do you guys feel transitional fits into the curriculum K-5? How important is it for you guys who's coming up with the curriculum, and how important is it to the students and parents that are able to take advantage of it?
I think Ann and I can talk
Yeah.
about that, because we're right.
On either end of
Of it.
yeah.
I think transitional is a very unique program, and we work with a transitional teacher.
On both ends.
On both ends, so she's able to come ask questions, say, where are you at, how can we ask, how can we support you? It's a tailored curriculum, involving both sets of kindergarten, but also first grade.
It is a very, very special program, and for the students who get, who need it, it's a gift of time. Everything we do at the K-2 is very developmental, and some kids are just not quite there yet. It has nothing to do with how smart they are, or whatever. It's just very developmental, and it's a great gift of time for those kids. I had my first year at Shaker Lane. I was a first grade teacher, or my second year there. I was unified arts before that, but then first grade, and I had, I don't know, 6 or 7 of the transitional kids, and they were all like leaders in the class. Like they, and when you talk to the kindergarten teachers, it wasn't the case, when they were in kindergarten. So it's just that gift of time that gives them that opportunity. And we work very closely on both ends, like Rachel said, with the transitional teacher. She's actually in the first grade hallway. So the kids interact, with each other, and they have lunch with you guys. So like they'll get to, see who they're going to first grade with. It's just handled so well at Shaker Lane, and I don't know, I feel it's an awesome program. It's what makes Littleton Public Schools special. One of the many things that makes Littleton Public Schools special.
Chime in.
Yeah.
And I apologize, it was outdoor classroom day.
Yeah.
So I did want to be comfortable. I didn't think I'd be speaking, but I just want to address Stacy. I think now more than ever is the time for transitional. These students that are coming up lost so many preschool primary experiences due to COVID, so that we're seeing that social emotional development need now more than ever. So if you would have talked to me 7 years ago when I first stepped here, okay, maybe would have thought of, no, maybe we should think of a different avenue. But now, more than ever, we have children that we are turning away from the program, and parents that want into the program that we're saying, we're sorry, we have a greater need. So I am a huge proponent of it right now. It's definitely weighing on me because of the needs of these kids.
Okay, thank you
Can I
so much
just
for that.
add, just from the Russell Street, I don't really have any connection to the curriculum, but just what the kids say when they're who have gone to transitional, like they don't view it as like a negative thing, and they don't see it as, oh, they had to repeat a grade, but they see it as, oh, I went to transitional, so they don't get that like feeling that they weren't good enough. That's just what they did, and they just needed another extra year. So I've never heard a child speak negatively about having gone there. It's only been a positive experience, but I mean, I don't have any other connection other than what the kids say.
I also want to say that I am a transitional kid myself. I was the last grade to have this Constantine, who she was amazing. Best experience of my life. Out of all of my years of high school, if I could go back and review one, it would be that one. It was amazing. I can speak highly enough of it.
Yeah.
So, and it really definitely changed. I mean, it was a while ago, but there are core memories.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good to hear. That's really good input.
I'm gonna add anything.
Yeah,
Of course.
that's such good input for us to have, because we're one of the only districts that offer transitional, and I have always thought it's kind of what makes Littleton so special. So if it's something that, we need to keep, then that's just something for us to keep an eye on. It seems like it's a pretty core part of the district, so I appreciate that feedback, so thank you.
I'll just say, the pictures in this presentation are of the candid, engaged learning is just off the charts. Like if a picture's worth 1,000 words, these are really great. My question, and I look forward to the day where we're not reflecting on COVID, but I was wondering about the transition from Shaker Lane to Russell Street, when like perhaps the skill set wasn't necessarily where it needs to be, like perhaps in the area of handwriting or math, because that's such a concept that builds on top of one another. So what are we doing in that like grades 3, 4, and 5. I mean, it's kind of, it feels a little maybe daunting to be talking to a child about handwriting in 3, 4, and 5 because they weren't in the classroom for, you know, a year and a half, if you know what I mean. So are we tapping those children to be like, hey, we need to work on the handwriting? Or are we just letting it slide? And what are we doing about math where they may have missed an element and we need to pull them aside, like similar to the early literacy screening thing? Like, are we screening for math concepts that may have been missed?
Yeah, so, well, I think the handwriting maybe, you could address, I don't know when we get to that, but I can talk about that. So yeah, I mean, so we had used the Acadian screener in addition to our math assessments in MCAS for the third, fourth, and fifth grade students. But we're no longer using Acadians except on like an as needed basis. And what that does is there's two parts to it. There's a computation part and a concepts and application. So to be honest with you, the area in math that I see a lot of things that were affected was fact fluency. Really challenging to taught that on a computer remotely in that type of environment. So we try to teach the kids, not really the memorization part isn't really what's going to stick with them. The strategies of what to do when you don't know. So, you know, kids can do, 5 times 6. So use that to help you figure out, other facts that you might not know. So we try to work on those. I mean, I'm the math interventionist, so I do have a targeted group of students that like I work with, and it's all based on the data. But like math assessments, the Into Math program has a growth measure that we look at that breaks it down by standard to see where the students need to have us focus on the most. And of course, MCAS, but the only problem with MCAS, I mean, it's good, except that we get the data so late that it's almost like, where math, we get it right away, growth measure, we get it right away. We have the unit assessments that we look at. And the teachers have kind of approached this in a different way. And next year, I think going forward, we'll, start to be able to talk more and find what has worked the best. But some teachers will kind of reteach concepts, so let's say they take Form A and there were a couple of things that they just didn't understand. So they'll reteach it and we'll give them Form B as a retake to see how they're doing. So we do the small groups, we have the WIN block. So during that time, like the what I need block, kids will either go for reading support, math support, SEL support, what other things that they might need. And then in the classroom, the teachers will post small groups to work with students. So we're just trying to constantly look at the data and get the most relevant information to target where students need the extra work the most. Is that?
Yeah, no, that's good. That's,
It seems like,
what I was hoping to hear. Yeah, that's great.
yeah, and it's, I feel like that the fact fluency has been like the greatest piece, right? And that affects everything else. So that's kind of why we're really trying to target that. In terms of handwriting, what I know is that they teach cursive in third grade, and with all the teachers do that. We are aware, I mean, because kids spend so much time on the computer that piece was missing. So, teachers are aware of it, and it comes up in different meetings and things of what should we do to help kids. So they're aware. And I've noticed it myself. The way students are forming letters is so different than how they formed it pre-COVID, right? Where they had the formal instructions and just trying to reteach as you see it. Then in my room, we have sandpaper letters so they can trace it and make a connection to that, so that they can then remember how the letter is made to then create it the same way when they're writing it. But is there anything else that
The only thing that sooner than you at all, is that there is a specific handwriting lesson as part of foundation. That teachers can do kind of as an independent activity with kids. So there is a specific handwriting lesson that goes along throughout the foundation.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, second presentation is the SR3 update. Director of Teaching and Learning, Elizabeth Steele, will give an update on SR3.
Like you, Chairman, we are excited today that we don't have to talk about COVID anymore, but that is unfortunately not yet. So happy to present an update about the SR3 grant this evening. It is directly related to the pandemic and COVID and the impact that has resulted of that. So, no worries. I can start talking slowly. So the presentation tonight, I'll just go over two things. We'll just quickly review what ESSER is, so we have a reminder of that. And then I will share with you the plan that we have reviewed and updated recently in comparison to when we first put it out there and shared it with you. So ESSER 3 is, thank you. The Elementary and Secondary Schools Emergency Relief Fund. It is a direct result from the American Rescue Plan Act. And so the ESSER is actually the educational component of that act that happened. And so with ESSER 3, there is a wide range of usages of the funds that are available to us, which is wonderful. There's not much that's kind of on the non-allowable list. However, these funds are designated for one-time, for the next one, please. Thank you. They are designated for one-time short-term expenditures, and it's really to address, right, the ongoing impact from the pandemic. And so what's key to remember about these funds is that fact that they are that short-term, they're one-time, they're not funds that are replenishable. So once we use it, it's gone and out the door. So here is our plan. We are providing you an update. It's been a little while since we've kind of shared out how we've been using these funds. So we have the total allotment at the top there, $357,471. And then we have kind of our 8 major cost areas, you'll notice there. And so big difference between the last time we updated you and now lie in a couple of areas. One, we are glad to say that the PPE supplies, we didn't need to purchase any more than we did at the very beginning. So we kind of went down on what we thought we were going to need to use out of these grant monies for PPE supplies. So that was a positive sign for that. It allowed us to put some of that money into other categories. Another big change from when we first discussed this plan was number 5, where you see the MTSS support. So initially, we were thinking about putting a lot more money into that fund. And so we have actually kind of lowered the amount to go into MTSS support because we've added actually number 8 there, social emotional learning, which when push comes to shove, one could argue social emotional learning actually can be and should be bulked in with that MTSS, which would get us to that ballpark of what we initially said. But for intents and purposes this evening, kind of seeing the money laid out, we had it separated out because we feel that with everything that we've gone through with the pandemic and areas that we really need to support, that is an area that we have especially for. And the third and final that I will explicitly point out is area number 6. So initially we had said reading and literacy intervention, and based on what we have seen the past couple of years and our needs, we're really kind of gearing that. We're sticking in the literacy realm, but we're actually looking more at kind of consumable items that would be supporting our students, as well as updated regulations of the early literacy square. And so we would be using funds in that kind of center for that there. The others are kind of what we have discussed before. And so I just wanted to point out to you the major areas that we had larger changes in for this. Next slide, please. Thanks, Dorothy. This might be familiar to you from a little while ago when we had initially given you the update. We had taken everyone's, we had done a survey, we had taken everyone's responses and put it into kind of a word cloud machine. And this is what came up. And so what I want to emphasize here is that we go back to this and see students are at the center of it. They're at the center when we're having these conversations about whether they're one-time funds or recurring funds. The students are at the center of what we're talking about and then the impact that what we will do has on them. And so I just want to emphasize that that is still a major, what we come back to and we look at kind of the highest priority needs of what the community and stakeholders wanted initially when we first kind of had these funds to discuss. So that was the brief update that we just wanted to provide everyone this evening with regards to those funds and how they're being used.
One thing I'd like to add, and perfect timing to add this, as all of you know, we had a TFN review this year. Very extensive. I can't even begin to count the number of hours that we all spent on the TFN review. But they could probably tell me. What's really powerful about this statement that I'm going to make is we did not have one finding or corrective action in the entire review. And the review focused on special education and civil rights. That doesn't happen very often, folks. We'd be hard pressed to find another district that didn't have findings. I'd like to commend our staff and especially Lynn Snow, who was at the helm of collecting data and making sure that the data made sense for the Department of Education. Incredible job. And I can't remember the last time as a superintendent that I've had a review of special education and other aspects of the district where we didn't have some findings. So when I first came here in this district, we had a number of findings when I went through the pamphlet or the booklet when I first arrived. So congratulations on a job well done, Lynn. And it was a lot of work and we appreciate all the work that you put into it. So thank you.
I don't know. It's hard.
Nice job there. Any follow-up questions? Or else with that?
I have questions, yeah. I'm not very familiar with this, so you'll have to excuse me. So this is money that was already spent this year, or this is what's allocated for next year?
So great question. When the ESSER, there's been 3 iterations of ESSER, right? So ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3. ESSER 3 is the most recent, the largest push of funds that the federal government has pushed out to the states, and the state then pushed out to us. So we actually have, we're able to use it over multi-years, and we have to expend everything by September 30th of 2024. So some of it we have already expended, and others are encumbered, or we have plans of how to.
Okay,
It's going over multi-years of spending.
okay, so it's likely the last time we'll be getting any type of funds like this, or we just don't know, we just have this until 2024, and then it gets reevaluated.
This will,
Yeah.
Yes, we don't want another pandemic to.
No.
Well, no, but it just reminded me, because Michelle was saying we're still dealing with the effects of the kids just needing more transitional. I was like, is this something that can be used to buffer that 1 or 2 years when maybe we do need an extra transitional class? Is this something that could help fund that? But it seems like,
unfortunately,
It has to be expended by the end of next year. There is another fund that we tap. It's evolving, for lack of another statement or word I can use at this point in time. It's called Student Opportunity Act. And instead of targeting that money, they rolled it into Chapter 70. So it's a little more difficult to tease out. So, but we're hoping that money continues in the state budget from year to year, and that will give us some money to look at initiatives that we identify beyond what we typically use our operational budget for. The ESSER funding, and I don't want to bring fear into anybody, but we all know that the federal budget is really not doing well at this point in time. And there is talk that they may be looking for money from a variety of sources to try to make their budget work, and keep their employees paid. And they may or may not, but there has been talk that they may roll back some of the ESSER money. So we're kind of waiting anxiously to see if they're going to affect the funding that every district in the United States has at this point in time. So we're anxiously waiting to have some answers.
Well, we should know that soon. That's all part of the debt ceiling negotiations. So, yeah, we'll definitely know by June 1st, but fingers crossed that is taken off the table. But I wanted to thank you for this update and looking at, the trick with the ESSER funding is you get a fiscal cliff at the end of the 3rd year. So you have to make sure you're not funding things that rely upon that money. And I think the priorities that you've chosen make so much sense, to really put the highest percentage of the funding into things that were a direct outcome of the pandemic. So MTSS, we've got learning gaps with our students. And so funding extra supports to help those students is a great way to spend the ESSER money. And then also the investment in social emotional learning that, those struggles that kids are having, also a direct result of the pandemic. So so this just makes a lot of sense. And, hopefully by the time the ESSER money is lost, those issues will have also decreased. So I think this is a great plan.
ideally,
Yeah,
for sure.
ideally. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. All right, that wraps up the presentation portion of the evening. We have one order of new business this evening, which is the town administrator search committee appointment. So we need to discuss and appoint a member from the school committee to join this committee. So I can give you some details on this. I served on this last time. I can say it was a rewarding experience. I also got to know some other board members well through the process, so I'm happy to repeat the process, but if anybody is anxious to take part here, I'm also happy to share it. But basically, the town administrator should be appointed according to the following process. It's going to consist of 5 members. The chair of this committee will be appointed by the Board of Selectmen. There'll be a member of the finance committee appointed by the finance committee, a member of the school committee appointed by the school committee, a member of the personnel committee appointed by personnel, and then a member at large with municipal management experience appointed by the Board of Selectmen. There's likely 1 or 2 evenings that'll need to take place where they will have received resumes, applications from qualified individuals. Just like maybe 2 or 3 hours of interviews that take place over 2 nights. The idea there is to sort of whittle it down and present, hopefully, at least 2 to 3 final candidates for the select board to make a final decision upon. So we need, Dino's not here. We could ask Dino to do it. I'm just kidding.
Jen, that's what we did.
Yeah, so I mean, I did it last time, and I'll say, I enjoyed the process. I learned a lot, got to meet some nice people. If somebody would like to do it, by all means, step right up. If you have questions, ask them.
I mean, if you enjoyed it, you feel like it's your wheelhouse.
I think
I'm
they make a great
certainly not
case for
gonna-
you to do
Yeah,
it.
it sounds like you liked it.
I'm not trying to suggest that I'm the person that does it, but if no one's wants to do it, or if no one is is excited to do it, I'll do it.
Sounds like we're okay with you
I
keeping
think it
it
might be a good.
We're here to help you if you need help.
I'm not sure if we need a vote on that or not, but why don't we just go through that? Why don't we just do that?
Yeah, let's take a vote just to formalize.
Somebody want to make a motion to appoint me to the town administrator search committee?
I'll make a motion to appoint Justin Carthy to be on the
Town administrator search
town administrator search committee.
I'll second the motion.
edit selection committee. Good enough. All right, so motion made and second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Aye.
None, we'll mark it unanimous. Thanks. I'll report back. I'll keep you on the loop. This is our second opportunity for interested citizens. So if there's anybody here with us this evening or at home that wishes to speak before the school committee, now's your opportunity.
You don't have any.
Moving right along to our subcommittee reports, PMBC.
I don't think I have anything to report.
Anything from the Shaker Lane Committee as well?
We're meeting in June. Right, we just have to schedule that. Coordinate everyone getting together. We have an RFS due June 22nd.
Okay.
Which we need I think all hands on deck for getting that done. It's very important for that to get done. Otherwise, we lose our eligibility for funding. I'm not clear as to who is accountable for it yet, but it is something that we need to get done.
Mostly the town, it's more of a town oriented document. We do have a chairman of the Shaker Lake Building Committee, but will have some accountability as well, but
Yeah.
administrative staff there still really needs to do the groundwork to get that document done. We're, school department's here to help. There is an educational section that we've already done.
You feel like we would have support for that? And then we're in a good spot for it?
Well, we've had conversations. I think we're moving in the right direction, and we'll continue to monitor it. I would like to see that meeting prior to June, if possible.
Yeah.
And I really like to see it next week, to be honest with you. Not sure whether that could be arranged or not.
Right.
Okay, I know the select board has an item on their agenda this coming Monday for the feasibility study agreement, which is one of those checkbox pieces of documentation that we've got to get back to them. So if there's anything that seems to be getting held up or whatever, just keep us in a loop and we can reach out to our fellow constituents.
Yeah, sounds good.
Budget subcommittee, we don't have anything to report this time of year. You know, anything, right?
No,
Good. All is well. Policy subcommittee, okay, pause and say we recently reorganized, so if we don't have committee reports, that's perfectly okay, because we're just getting our feet wet here, but does the policy subcommittee have anything to report or anything? We have one meeting left for the year. I do want to say that religious holy days,
Yeah,
we were gonna readdress, and I wanted to do that before the end of the school year.
well, we really do need to address it. We can address it again next year, but next meeting, I'll bring in a revised policy and it'll be a simple revision of taking out the try.
Okay, and then possibly gonna look at maybe some of the language that we saw for some other districts and incorporating that during that process of evaluating which holidays we celebrated and didn't celebrate. We witnessed to a number of communities which seem to have some stronger language in protecting one's ability to have an excused absence and not be penalized in the classroom or extracurricular activities and the like. So something to consider. I know we have a policy, but it's the enforceability of the policy that I think we're looking to strengthen. See shaking heads in the room.
In that light, I just wanted to bring up something since we're talking about enforcing policies. So there was a little bit of chatter that parents that I heard about our zero tolerance policy on racial slurs and kind of what our school is doing to encourage obviously equity, but also the policies of which we're following for I don't know if it's consequences if students are involved in it. I haven't looked at the policy. I'm sure there is a policy, but it might just be something that we want to keep and take a look at and just make sure that it is clear and enforceable and something that
Right.
we can all,
Yeah,
you may have something to speak to on that, but
yeah, no, and I can, and I'm gonna actually defer to Dr. Harrington. He'll be doing a presentation in June. In particular, about the high school, in terms of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And cite some of the things that they've been doing in the school. We have a small group of students that we have some concerns about. We're making progress with them, but we're seeing things that we haven't seen for many years in our district. And it's not to be alarming at all, because it isn't. But there is a realization by all administrators that we need to be taking sufficient action to put a stop to it, and also use some restorative justice and not just consequences. Getting the message across to the students. But it's mostly the high school. We've had a few incidences. Middle school, not very much at all, but there's a little bit of it there. So we're aware of it, and if you hear things, please refer the concerns to the administration so that they have that information as well.
that's notes on your radar.
Yes,
That's
and
great.
again, Dr. Harrington will be doing a presentation about that at school committee.
So in June, we'll hear about some education, some planning that's going into mitigating it, not just the consequences.
Right.
Yeah, we really can't talk about specific, consequences for some minor incidents that happened this year. Minor in the sense that they were isolated and handled with families quickly and dealt with consequences were assigned, like specifics of that. But I would say that, when you talk about educational program, one of the things we want to get at is the perceptions of the students and understand. Sometimes kids hear stuff, but they don't say, they don't want to go board because they don't want to tell on a friend or whatever. They don't want to be the one who went to a principal, or assistant principal teacher. So we want to make sure that students, as much as possible, come into it. So we want to gauge their level of comfort with that. But more importantly, we want to know if they're hearing things and they're not coming forward. We want to know the examples of some things they might be hearing that they're alarmed by. And then we come up with some strategies to help facilitate, their reporting of that as well as our response to it. Most of what has come up recently, rumors circulating among some parents about, I've heard this or that. And we want to get tap into that, you know, so to understand, drill down to it and say, is there validity to it? You know, is it just people hearing things, you know, parents have reported in some cases, their children coming home and saying, they heard this at school, they heard this kid saying that. I can certainly comment on, you know, a couple of things at the next school committee meeting about that we dealt with in a general way this year in school. The isolated incidents I mentioned earlier. And what we wanted, you know, certainly understand what the students are hearing, if they're what they're concerned about. And then we'll also be, you know, I've already addressed it with faculty. We will also be checking with the faculty too. Faculty, you know, they have to report things and they do, these come up. Sometimes it's really difficult. Sometimes we don't get to the bottom. We'll get a report of something that happened. One of them that I'll elaborate a little bit more on is very confusing for us as we talked to lots and lots of kids. And there was a pretty strong rumor going about something that happened at high school that said something, and another kid got alarmed by it. There's a rumor that someone hit someone as a result of it. We talked to lots and lots of kids and parents about it and had meetings about the kids who were involved in it with their parents. And we couldn't uncover exactly what happened. We couldn't confirm the rumor. So that's the one I think that is probably circulating the most around the community. But we did a thorough review of it and talked to lots of people. And sometimes that happens. But we certainly brought a lot of attention to it because certainly the kids and the staff knew we were looking extensively into it by the number of kids that called up the class that we spoke with. The meetings we held with the parents that were involved in it. So sometimes we find out, sometimes we don't, but we certainly always follow up. And as the superintendent said, I would encourage anyone who has information about specific incidents, something they're alarmed by, let us know. We want to create the most safe environment possible for students emotionally or physically in the school. You know, but I'll share a couple of details around I guess I would say general issues that happened this year. One was a graffiti thing, and another one was the use of the N-word by a student. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But without getting into any violation of confidentiality and how to get dealt with the students.
Oh, at the June meeting, I'd love to hear plans for teaching the entire population about microaggressions and the impact they can have. Like, it sounds like you've got some data points that some things are bubbling up under the surface.
I think that's
Which is sort of telling you that
Yeah.
it's impacting the culture at the school. And, you know, you don't want to have a situation where you're chasing it instead of getting ahead of it.
Right. So
So,
we do have a DEI club at the school. We're talking about that. We talked about some things planned for next year, and the DEI presentation I think is in the works to do after graduation for the grades 9, 10, 11. So there will be some things that are underway. There's been extensive professional development with staff. We'll comment on that. We can also talk about some planning for next year, for next fall. One of the things that we have embraced each season, and it's actually our bike director who has done this in concert with the MIA, is a pledge that students take related to diversity, equity, inclusion, of student athletes. So how do we maybe take something like that is very specific to being a participant student in athletics at the high school, and maybe shorten it in some way, but expand upon it as a place that students that live in high school related to how they're going to treat each other.
there's a lot of great programs out there. that-
Hopefully it comes out our core values and how we model and cultivate that with activity. So, yeah, we certainly will be reinforcing it, as you say, the state ahead of it, and make sure that we're being as proactive as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm glad you brought it up because I think,
It was a policy thing that
listen, I think it shows that, I think we heard from everybody this week, like, for good or bad, the school committee kind of has a bit of a pulse of what's going on in the schools. People reach out to us, which I think is a great thing. And I'm glad, that we're prepared for a presentation next meeting. It felt a little rushed to try to put it on this agenda since we'd already posted. I'm sure you would have been able to handle it. But it seems like work is progressing on the topic, and we'll get a full update at our next meeting.
Yeah, I think what you'll hear is that night before graduation, So what you'll hear at the next school committee meeting on June 1st, so what you'll hear is an overview, not necessarily a slideshow present, a presentation with slides. More of just I'll be at the podium and I'll talk, provide more of an update of things that we've done this year that Elaine referenced, like in terms of programmatic things. What things we plan to do next year. I'll comment briefly, as I mentioned already, about a couple of general things that we're concerned about, things, rumors we're hearing and things like that. And how we intend to respond to that, encourage people to come forward. So that, I'm sort of giving you a preview of what to expect. It'll be more of a general overview. And then we can certainly provide school. I think it's probably better to provide a more extensive update after some of those programmatic things happen in September, October, and so on. So like a fall update. This is what we've done since I last spoke to you in June. So, that's sort of what I can provide next week after. June 1st.
Yeah, the week after.
Yeah.
That would be great. Perfect. Thank you.
There's an excellent online training program for coaches as well that I circulated to the high school and the athletic director that certainly worth considering as we move forward. I mean, we've all heard the news this year in terms of sports some districts within Massachusetts. They're struggling a bit. So I think anything we can do to make sure our coaches are well equipped to deal with any situation that they come across is very valuable.
Great. There's no other business before the school committee. I'll just announce that our next meeting is June 1st, 7 p.m., same location. And also that we invite all to join us for a retirement cake reception in recognition of our retirees for their many years of service. It will also take place June 1st, immediately before the school committee meeting, with a 6:15 start at the high school cafeteria. All are welcome. We'll order more cake. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very true.
So there's no need for an executive session this evening, which is terrific. So I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Oh, go ahead.
I move to adjourn.
Motion made,
Second.
second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.